At 6:01, I'm going to call the regular city council meeting and public hearing of the governing body of the city of Blanco to order. Roll call. Present. Councilmember Smith. Councilmember here. Councilmember Devon. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance Thank you. Going to move on to announcements. So as we all are aware, summertime is upon us and the heat has arrived. I just wanted to let citizens know that the Blanco Library provides a cool place for people to escape the heat. It is open Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 and Saturday 10 to 2. There's also the Family Elder Care Fan Drive going on through August 31st, and you can contact the CRC for more information. There's a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Ranch Smokehouse Deli on Thursday, July 14th at 4. The Blanco Market Days is going to take place this Saturday, July 16th from 9 to 4. Good Sam's Open Market Day is on Saturday as well, July 16th from 10 to 2. There will be a town hall regarding Highway 281 updates next Tuesday, July 19th at 6 here at Gym of the Hills. Speaking of Gym of the Hills, they have a new program called Passport to Longevity, and the kickoff event will be on July 20th from 5 to 6:30. Blanco County burn ban remains in effect until noon on July 26th. Yet Park Work Day is scheduled for 7 a.m. on Saturday, July 30th. The 33rd Annual Blanco Classic Car Show will be held on September 17th at the Blanco State Park. And the city and chamber are partnering together to try to plan a community event, which is tentatively scheduled for Saturday, August 13th. We will have more information out when we have more of a plan. And lastly, our Historic Preservation Officer, Mr. Rudy Nino, will be stepping down from his role at the end of the month. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation for all the hard work he's contributed over the past 5 years as our HPO. Thank you again for all you've done for the city of Blanco. We're going to move on to public comments. Thank you. First, we have Rick Rosenberg. This is the time to do it. Oh, okay, you're going to be doing the presentation. Okay, Amy Arnold.
Hey folks, it's me again, and I'm here for the same reason I've been here before with the short-term rental. I did look at your edits, and I want to thank you guys for going in and making some efforts to get some of the concerns that have been brought to you corrected. I did want to address the fees that are still on here, and I don't quite understand what the big penalty is if you own 2 short-term rentals versus 3, but it's a huge fee. I don't believe that it's going to cost you guys any more to process me having 3 short-term rental applications versus 2, the difference of 300 versus 1,000. I believe that your fees need to represent the actual cost that it's going to cost you to process an additional one. It seems like a tax to me. So I would ask that you consider the reasoning behind, why we're penalizing someone having more than 2 short-term rentals to that degree. It seems simple to me, $300 across the board, anyone for a short-term rental, simple and easy. That's what I would recommend. Also, I noticed here, in case I'm misreading it, but is it correct that it says it's going to be a violation isn't going to incur $300 per day that you're in that violation? If that's exactly how that's to be read, I would just consider that just the amount of time it's going to take you to inform someone that they're in violation, them to receive it, and then to respond to it is going to take several days. And that seems like a huge amount of money if that truly is $300 per day. And lastly, one of the concerns that I know several people have brought up before is the application is granted if it has no adverse effect to another property within 1,000 feet. And I still would like someone to define what is an adverse effect. It would seem like an adverse effect, to her property or my property or your property is going to be different depending on who's defining that. And if you're going to end up being in violation because of that at $300 a day, I feel like that's something that should probably be included as a definition if you're further fleshing this out. And lastly, I just would like to encourage, since I know that it says that this is in effect and you're already obligated to some of these things. I know I emailed you, I don't know if you received it or not, but about the fact that there's still, as of yesterday, was not a way to pay the hotel occupancy tax, to find the form to pay it online. Should be a simple form, a PDF, you should be able to upload it. Still looking for a way to do that at this point after we've been doing this for months. Seems like something by now we should have a way for us to pay it. This is the week most of us are paying our hotel occupancy tax to the state. I went to go pay it to the city and there's still not a way for me to do that. So it's still, I've got to call somebody. How do I get the form? Who do I turn it into? It doesn't have things like your address on it for the property you're paying the tax for and things like that, the old form. So I would encourage, as we work through this and you guys get this up in all the little I's dotted and stuff, that you at least put the stuff that is important is you guys collecting that tax and finding a way to be able to track it online. So thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move on to staff presentations. First, we have City Hall, Mr. Escovy.
Thank you. Apologize. Don't have a nice graphic this time. Excuse me. But just a couple of things that are going on, as you know, and letting the public know that we are going to continue having workshops for our budget. So we had one today. We'll have one on August 2nd. I believe it'll be 3 to 5, but it might change as far as the actual time at the Buyers Building. We're continuing looking at the budget and hopefully getting it, provide a balanced budget by September. So that's one thing. Administration, using some of the money we saved through the year, we've hired a part-time, temporary for now, code enforcement officer, 20 hours a week. He's already starting to come out. We'll make sure that he has proper attire, that you'll see that, but hopefully you'll start seeing that those sort of things happening. We're going to kind of go over the kind of low-hanging fruit first, get rid of some of the bandit signs, some of the streamer signs, maybe look at some high grass and things like that, and then we'll take a measured approach on and we're looking at compliance first. So as a compliance officer, we're looking at compliance first, not necessarily trying to ticket everybody, but we'll look at getting compliance first. So and then, as I think the mayor mentioned, it's been very hot and dry. Just a reminder to everybody, I'm sure everybody here knows, we are under a stage 2 drought. Hopefully that does not become more, but we're continuing to look at that. We'll discuss this with the county. We'll make sure that we're on board with whatever they're doing as well. So those are really kind of the updates from the administration standpoint. Thanks.
Next, we have the Police Department, Chief Rubin.
Good evening. You do have the numbers in front of you. Continues to be active for us. I won't go as in depth as I did last month, but it was interesting to note that while we were in this meeting last month, we had a bar fight and a domestic violence call during just the length of time that we're here at this meeting. So we continue to be busy, and if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Infomark, Mr. Behrman.
This up on my phone just in case I can't see that far. So, do they have the PowerPoint on their notebook? Okay. So you can go to the next one. So, just a couple noteworthy events. Since our inception here, March 1st, we've been working diligently to get caught up with past work orders, taps, leaks, pump issues, etc. We've been working with Mike Reekin and the Capital Improvement Committee, trying to figure out what areas need improvement first as far as the infrastructure is concerned, mainly the water and sewer system. We're tracking all of our leaks, tracking where we're jetting the lines, where our stoppages are. When we camera the lines as their bellies, now we've got a more robust work order system that we're working towards to better capture the things that we find in the field day to day. I missed the last meeting, got a little touch of food poisoning, but I believe a question was asked about the Pittsburgh lift station. From what I understood, all the pumps in that lift station are fully operational as of June. It's got a brand new pump in it, and the other pump is in great shape. And we also have a spare pump in the warehouse. So if anything happens, we can swap them out. So Pittsburgh lift station is good. Main lift station, you can see the old pump on my left and the new pump on the right. We actually increased it by 5 horsepower to get more flow to the facility. And this also makes the lift station fully operational. So we have two, we got one new pump and the other one's fairly new because it basically wasn't being used very much while it was in the wet well. Let's see here. We're working with Aquatech Labs out of Austin. We're sending weekly samples instead of monthly samples now. So we're grabbing more samples, doing more frequencies. We've got a full lab set up at the wastewater treatment facility now where we can do testing analysis faster, more frequently to build a database system so we know what improvements we can make, where it needs to be made, etc. The irrigation fields, we've been working with a farmer, and he's brought in a specialist that deals with seeds and irrigation, knows far more than I do. I'm a water wastewater guy, not an irrigation guy. So, but he's been a great help to us. So they planted a new crop out there. It's basically a Milo, hay. It's a mixture hybrid seed that supposedly absorbs water way better than what was out there. So I have noticed a significant difference just with that field alone. And the north field will be done this winter is the goal there with the same crop. And we're also still looking at some other things, maybe like some different types of radishes and stuff that go deep in the ground that allows us past that shallow layer of clay that's on top of the ground and get deeper soil penetration. Next slide. These are just some maintenance and repairs to touch on. We talked about Pittsburgh. We talked about main lift station. The Allen pumps at the wastewater plant, which help reduce some of the phosphorus levels. It says on here that they've been ordered. They've actually were replaced July 1st. So those are installed, and we should see some significant reductions in the phosphorus levels at the wastewater treatment facility. Just a little touch up on what we've been doing since we've been here. There's some before and after pictures. We've been cleaning up the city yard, trying to, I'm very OCD. I'm very, I like a clean spot to work, and I believe you're only as efficient as the area you work in. So we've been working hard at changing culture. I'm driving Zach crazy and the guys crazy, but they've been amazing, following me with all my rabbit trails and getting things knocked out. The city's mini excavator was out of service, so I had to put it in the shop, got it taken care of. Just basically, we've just been working really hard to get all the city's equipment, trailers, tractors, basically anything that belongs to the city. We've been working real hard to get it legal, repaired, or just taken care of, general maintenance. There's just some more pictures. Then wastewater operations, we're still discharging to the irrigation fields. We're not discharging to the Blanco River. As we discussed, we're going to weekly testing instead of monthly testing. And we increased process control measures to twice a week, where we're checking the solids or the mixed liquors. We're checking settabilities. We're just doing in-house procedures more often to where we can better operate the wastewater facility. And we'll carry this same over to the water plant once it goes online. We're very diligent in our process controls. Just some KPIs, water operations, estimated completion in August. Talk about the irrigation. I hate the drought, but it has helped us tremendously with the irrigation operations. You can see the timer on the left is what was there. Very primitive on-off exposed electrical. It was just a disaster. So what we did is we installed a electronic timer on the right where we can actually control the flow throughout the day. We can kick them on periodically throughout the day, kick it off. So we're not just kicking it on, running it for an hour or two, and then shutting it back off. This, we can run it at different intermits and allows the ground better absorption. Talked about all that. So prior to Infomark, there was an issue with Lazy Creek sewer line. My understanding, one of the homeowners spoke to council and it was approved to replace the line. And after further investigation, we TV'd the line. We looked at some things. There were some root growth in the joints, but we have ordered, it's actually a root cutter bit, has like a chainsaw end on it that spins and it'll clean the line. So we ran that through there, and we now have it on a work order system to quarterly. We'll come through, clean it with a copper sulfate approved by the EPA that basically just keeps the roots ate away and it won't be an issue any further. So I didn't see any reason to replace the line. There was no big divots or anything like that that was alarming. It was just some root growth over the years. And that kept us from tearing up trees in people's yard and kept the public happy also. So we had 22 water leaks in June we repaired. And we're still working with the Palomino water line. We're still showing a lot of high usage out there. We think it might be leaking into the river. We've got to get down in there and figure that out. So that's on my list this month. Health and safety, we had no recordable incidents. We've got all the signage on the facilities with emergency contacts information. Just FYI, that emergency number goes to an on-call phone now that goes to whoever's on call for Infomark. Instead of calling the sheriff, if they call that number on there, it'll go straight to one of my guys. And the sheriff has that phone number also for the old routine where they do call a sheriff. We brought Ben on in June. He's now fully transitioned from the city. Zach, congratulations to him. He went and got his Class B certification for wastewater treatment operator. That's a big accomplishment. That's not an easy test to pass. I can vouch for that. And then I took a dam safety class because I learned we got some dams in Blanco. So I'm trying to learn a little bit more about that. So other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you. At 6:20, we are going to close regular session and open the public hearing. Item 1, 1725 South US Highway 281, ABSA 0002, Survey 24H, Eggleston Acres, 0.69 variance request, wooden deck, 10 feet side yard setback, and 20 feet real setback. And there are no public comments. So at 6:21, I'm closing the public hearing and going back into the regular meeting. We are going to move on to the consent agenda. The following items may be acted upon in one motion. Item 1, approval of revision to minutes from the April 12th, 2022 regular city council meeting and public hearing. Item 2, approval of minutes from the June 14th, 2022 regular city meeting. 3, approval of disbursement of tuition reimbursement to Victoria McMain in the amount of $1,214. 4, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of selection of CIAMAC members to include Frank LeBlanc, Heinz Roche, and David Pernouns for a 2-year term. And item 5, approval of amendment to ordinance 2016-002. Is there a motion? We have a motion from Councilmember Smith to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5 as presented. Is there a second? Councilmember Devine has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. We are going to move on to old business. Item 1, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of amendment to ordinance 2022-005, regulating short-term rentals and imposing a related permit fee and penalties for non-compliance. I'm ready to discuss. Make sure your mic's on.
All right, cut that down. All right, Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the posted revisions to the ordinance 2022-0005 with the following changes. On page 2, section 1, under definitions, we add the definition of a dwelling unit, and it's to be defined as a permanent structure or part thereof designed and used for any period of habitation by one or more individuals. On page 5, item 6 currently reads that the application is granted, it will not result in permitting more than 10%. And I propose we change that 10% to 15%. And we strike and remove the word primary residences and substitute the word dwelling units. On page 7, item 7, that requires a floor plan of an existing or proposed structure to include bedroom sizes and dimensions, that this provision be removed and omitted. Following under number 7 requires that the applicant submit a floor plan of the existing or proposed structure to include bedroom sizes and dimensions. I am omitting that. I'm deleting that from this ordinance. Subsequent to that, in item B1, where it now reads owner occupied property, $100 per permit application, I propose we strike that, and it says all STR properties, $300 annual permit fee. And following that, items 2, 3, and 4, where we had the segregated and rate tier, would be deleted. On page 10, item C, it has to do with advertising The availability of short-term rentals listed in any medium, including newspapers, magazines, brochures, websites. And it requires the advertiser to state the number of available parking spaces. I feel this is addressed properly in the rest of the ordinance, and I propose we strike that provision and omit it. And that concludes the recommended changes I have to make.
So we had a motion from Councilmember Smith with to approve the amendment, to approve the amendment to ordinance 2022-0005 with the following changes.
I have some discussion.
I will.
Okay, good.
It's
All
a
right.
motion.
Okay.
So,
Get all the changes.
the first, he wanted to, okay. Thank you. Dwelling unit, to add, the definition to the, ordinance as any permanent structure or a part thereof designed and used for any period of habitation by one or more individuals. And then he recommended changing the 10% to 15%, use the term dwelling unit in that same section, delete number 5 on page 7, and to make the permit fee $300 annually. And to delete page 10C. Is there a second?
There was
No,
more.
discussion.
Okay, there was more.
I said that.
Okay, you got the C and.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're quick, okay.
Councilmember Thrickhill has seconded. Discussion.
All right, discussion. I'm a little confused about the reason for changing dwelling unit since we have a definition for a short-term rental dwelling unit in the thing right now. And it allows for a single, I mean, it's a short-term rental, it's defined as a structure, including an individual room, so that's a dwelling unit that's rented separately or from other rental units on the property for the purpose of transient or guest lodging.
Okay, but the difference in that, Counselor, would be a dwelling unit would also include individual residences in the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be an STR. If you restrict it to STRs, it could only be 10% of the STRs. This is 10% of the dwelling units on the street.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. I guess basically it's not restricted only to STR units. It is all dwelling units in that neighborhood or on that street. And that includes single-family residences that are owner occupied, anything else that long-term rentals. If you're going to just count the houses on the street, you don't need to just count the STRs.
I'm very confused because the dwelling unit we're defining for purposes of being an STR, a short-term rental dwelling unit
I
would be
understand, but
defined this
it
way.
is not a short-term dwelling unit. It is an individual dwelling unit, whether it's used short-term or long-term or owner occupied.
I think that confuses this. Maybe our attorney would speak to that, but I'm confused about that. Yeah, I'm trying to understand it because I'm confused.
Effective change, correct me if I'm wrong, under that 10%, 15%,
Mhm.
it says the application of grant will not result in permitting more than he proposed 15%. And the current language is of the primary residences. Those words would change to dwelling units, which encompasses any dwelling unit within that block neighborhood or similar geographic area. So that could include rooms within a structure, accessory structures, all manner of dwelling units within that area. That's what is that what you're intending?
Yes, that is my intent.
So if we change, would we not accomplish that if under 6, more than 10% of dwelling units in a city block, since a dwelling unit is still defined as something being utilized as a short-term?
But it doesn't have to be utilized as a short-term SBR.
We have a definition right now, it's dwelling unit STR. That's the
Mhm.
only dwelling unit
Okay,
we have so far.
Okay.
Reference STR. This provides for a general.
got you. So it's in addition
It's
to
in-
the
I'm not
short-term rental.
superseding that.
Got you.
They're two different, one's included in the other, but the other one's fully inclusive.
Okay. So not all mammals are rabbits, but all rabbits are mammals. Is that what you're saying?
I guess.
Something
All
like
right.
that. Okay. And then, so I get that. I'm changing from 10 to 15%. Since the 10% is a guide and it isn't hard and fast, I still like 10%, but you know, I don't know how the other counselors feel. I have no problem with 10%. I don't see a problem with eliminating some of the others on those, but I wanted to understand the issue of dwelling unit as it falls into considerations for how many are being utilized or done. The others, I don't have an issue with anything. I'm happy with 10% because it's not a hard, fast, it's a guide. And I like to look for that as a guide, but I don't know. Other counselors, how do y'all feel?
Councilmember Devine, can you make sure your mic's on? Thank you.
There it is.
Okay, I would prefer to leave that at 10% also. I'd like you to explain to me, if you don't mind, what your concerns are about the tiered permit fees that we had written in.
You know, honestly, I think it needs to be straight and fair across the board.
Uh-huh,
I mean, whether you own 1, 2, or 3, and specifically, if you're a property owner in the city of Blanco and you're not a resident, then I don't think you should be penalized for that.
uh-huh, I see.
So that's the reason.
Mhm. Well, I'd like to speak to that a little bit because I know Amy had some concerns about that as well. And what we have tried to do with that is to give basically a home rule advantage to the people who actually are the citizens in this city, because they're the ones that are most affected by short-term rentals. I mean, we want to give an advantage to people who live here to be able to compete with someone who can come in and buy up 10 properties, take them out of our residential market and turn them into short-term rentals. And we've seen it happen, you know, Fredericksburg, Austin, so many places that are fighting this. We're just trying to get in front of it a little bit before we end up looking like Fredericksburg.
Well, you know, and I respect that, but I think having the percentage in there accomplishes that.
Uh-huh.
And I think to burden a fee, a different fee for depending on where your mailing address is I understand the citizens, but they're also property owners paying city taxes.
They are, but they do not live here. And I'm here to represent the people who live in the city.
I don't think
And-
that's going to deter anybody, the difference in the segregated fees. And I'm one for trying to make everything equal.
Uh-huh.
When my property's assessed for taxes, it doesn't matter where I live, my property value is set.
Absolutely.
So,
Property
so I'm not
tax
trying, I'm
purposes.
trying to make this the same for the
I
applicants
understand. For
here.
tax purposes, that makes sense. But when you're talking about impact to a neighborhood, that's not quite the same quantifiable thing as a tax rate. When a neighborhood, you know, doesn't want as many short-term rentals in it, they should be able to find the type of neighborhood they live in. And I think that giving an advantage to owner occupants, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean,
Okay,
I think
we have a difference of opinion,
we have a difference of opinion.
so,
So I would, I would maybe, move a little bit on those fees, but I think the idea of having, a tiered permit, I think it's something that, takes care of and raising the owner occupant 1 to 300. I think it takes care of the owner occupants in the city, and it discourages people from buying up multiple properties to use just as short-term rentals in our neighborhoods. Which I think is, I'm fine, call me whatever you
Well, I mean,
want, but
I guess, Counselor, I guess basically,
that's how people feel about their neighborhoods. When someone lives out in the county, if someone's gonna put a strip mall in next door to your 10 acres, you're gonna wanna have some input about that.
well,
And we
but
feel the same way.
I understand that, but I mean, I guess a business model on this, the difference is $700, a one-time fee, the way the ordinance currently reads. That's $700. I mean, that's $1 a day for 2 years difference in the cash flow for that business. And I don't think that's going to deter them from doing anything. So
Well,
what? Well, the current ordinance says one-time fee. Well, the way it currently reads, the difference would be $700 one time. So,
any input? Anybody else?
Well, as far as the percentage going, I mean, obviously I support the ordinance, which is currently law, but because we are also adding language that we're going to use the owner occupied units in the overall calculation for the percentage,
Mm-hmm.
it does make it more restrictive. And for that reason, I am okay with moving the percentage up to 15.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. And then as far as the tiered permit structure, originally it was a one-time fee.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate that this is an annual fee. So even though some of the amounts are lower, flat across the board, we did get a lot of public input about that. And I suspect this will raise more revenue for the city, this structure.
Uh-huh.
That's the way I see it.
So owner occupied are gonna have to pay a $300 per year fee.
Yes, but another reason why I think this is advantageous, both the ordinance, which is law, and this proposed ordinance, both still protect owner occupied homeowners here in Blanco. Every owner occupied resident here in Blanco can have an STR if they'd like, and that's important to me. So for that reason, I still think we are giving a home advantage to our citizens.
Okay.
I'm okay with everything but raising to 15%. I think 10% is an okay guide to use and for us to maintain integrity of neighborhoods and to try to be considering what's going on through potential transitions, property values, things that are going to be happening. And one of the things we see is that when we encourage or allow or not take into consideration the density of these, it does drive our property values now are escalating at pretty strong levels. And certainly some of that is driven by investors who are looking for a place to put their money and can put their money into buying multiple properties, and people who are working and living and wanting to stay here. It artificially makes those prices higher. And what people keep saying, can't you do something about property values? Well, there's not much we can do about property values because the market's driving them, but this is something we can do about property values. We can try to, at least through this. So I'd like to stay with the 10% as a guide. It's not hard and fast, it says. It's something that we use as a baseline to look at whether we're making exceptions or not. But let's use that as our baseline guide for what we're looking at as those properties grow. The other things I'm okay with, but I'd like to hang on to the 10%. I'm good with that.
And that's recognizing that with the language change, we are also including owner occupied units in the overall calculation.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Based on the comments, I'd like to amend my motion and revise the percentage to 10%.
Okay, Councilmember Smith has made a amendment to his motion to go back to the 10% instead of the 15%,
But with all the other changes.
with everything else.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Traykill has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries 3-1. Moving on, item 2, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of financial investments contract between Texas Class and the City of Blanco. Is there a motion? We had a presentation at our last meeting regarding the Texas Class.
Just kind of just,
Staff have anything? Anything new, anything different?
Nothing new, council member. Just as a reminder, right now, we have the available money that we have in our general fund and in our other funds, just right now collecting about 0.45%. And what the applicant Zach was talking about to you was that this percentage would be probably a little bit over 1%, and it depends. Obviously, it goes, they explained a little bit about this type of Texas Class, and this is very similar to Tex Pool, so very safe, but it will get you a little bit more, probably $15,000 to $20,000 more a year in interest than what we are currently getting.
thank you.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion for the approval of the financial investment contract between Texas Class and the City of Blanco.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion to approve the financial investment contract between Texas Class and the City of Blanco. Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Barron has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item 3, consideration and discussion, update, no action, on possible economic development agreement and possible PID between Palmico Inc., Palmer Enterprises Inc., and the City of Blanco.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Rick Rosenberg. I'm the managing principal for DPFG. We are a national consulting firm that focuses on helping developers around the country identify financing solutions for projects that need infrastructure. Next page. We've been in business over 30 years. We've been involved with about $16 billion of project financings, including about $800 million public improvement district type financings in the state of Texas. Next slide. Last meeting, representatives from Palmco provided you an introduction to Riviera Blanc, the project. I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about some of the financing options that we'd like the city to work with us on to help make this project a reality. The Public Improvement District, don't touch that. The Public Improvement District is a law that's been on the books in Texas since 1987. It was created by the state as an economic development tool, and the purpose is to allow cities and counties to bring private dollars to pay for public infrastructure so that the city or county doesn't have to pay for it directly itself. There are all the responsibilities of a PID are the responsibility of the project and the developer. The city doesn't have any direct operating responsibilities. There are no costs to the city. All the costs are put forth by the developer and paid for by the assessments on the property. The funding method of a PID is generally PID bonds issued by the city. In this case, they're revenue bonds. They would not be guaranteed by the city. They would only be secured by a lien on the property. And your bond counsel, who unfortunately could not be here tonight, and your financial advisor can provide you more information on that. Also, just so everyone knows, I do have 20 copies of this presentation, so happy to. So, and I know that we have if we go to the next slide, from a standpoint of a jurisdiction that is utilizing the PID, we go, in essence, we're having development pay for itself. We were able to move forward on the development, and the debt that we're asking the city to issue is non-recourse to the city. It doesn't impact your bond rating, your bond capacity. There will be no cost to the city. If the city staff incurs time and effort, then the PID would reimburse the city for that time. It would also pay all the costs of your city attorney, your bond counsel, underwriter, all the costs involved in the transaction. But the city remains in control, and that's one of the benefits of the mechanism. Also, it allows the city to create and work with the developer on agreed upon development standards. There are very limited abilities today under the state law for cities to impose development standards on projects. The state legislature took those abilities away from cities and counties a couple of years ago. By utilizing a mechanism like the PID, the city has an ability to ask for and work with the developer to create standards that everyone can agree to a higher quality for the project. From the next slide, from a homeowner standpoint, the PIDs offer definite benefits over the more historical use mechanism in Texas of municipal utility districts or water control improvement districts. A PID is not a tax, it's an assessment. So the payments don't change with the value of the property. So we know, as we've heard earlier, values are moving up in the community. That means higher tax bills for people. By living in a PID community, a portion of your payments are fixed and don't change with the value of your house. So over time, your effective tax rate will go down. There's also a fixed term, typically 30 years for a PID. Municipal utility districts, MUDs, tend to have a life that goes on forever. I would say a MUDs would outlast a nuclear holocaust. They just don't go away. So also homeowners or property owners can choose to pay off all or part of their assessment early. No penalty, avoid interest over that 30-year time period. You can roll it into your mortgage payment. We ask you to, it very often is part of an escrow arrangement with your mortgage company. It is on a tax bill, so it's just paid like property taxes. If you and I lived in a PID and I did not make my payment, your payments don't go up. Each property owner has their own obligation, so everyone stands on their own. If we lived in a MUD and I did not make my MUD payments, the MUD board could raise everyone's taxes to make up for my deficiency. And as we talked about, the use of the PID allows the developer to access the capital of the PID bonds at a lower cost and allows them to invest more money into other components of the project for higher quality amenities. In Texas, there's been in the last 10 years about $1.8 billion of PID bonds issued. We've worked on about 800 million of those transactions. We've worked on probably 90% of the bond deals in Austin, San Antonio, a lesser percentage in the Dallas market. So you can see here just the number of jurisdictions that have utilized this mechanism. There is definitely a movement across the state to away from the use of MUDs towards the PIDs because it keeps the city or the county in control of the mechanism. What has been discussed, I think, with city staff to date, and what has been what will be presented tonight is the concept of a use of a PID and a TERS in order to help generate sufficient funds to develop the project as planned. We anticipate right now, based on the preliminary numbers, subject to more review by your consultants, 2 bonds, one initially at the start of construction, and then a second bond as development occurs and there are homes and completed projects on the ground. We have discussed and would like to propose that the city provide a 90% tax increment rebate to the project as part of the agreement to annex into the city. That 90% TERS payment would be used to reduce the payments under the PID to the homeowners, therefore allows them to have a lesser payment. We also will be hopefully working with the county and the ISD to seek their participation in the TERS to provide even lower payments to the homeowners. Just some rough numbers. We are looking, based on the city TERS, but no county TERS or no school TERS, we're looking at about $14 million of bonds in 2 phases, probably 2 years apart based on absorption and the like. But once again, the bonds are decisions of you as the council are the only people that can agree to issue these bonds. This is not a developer decision. This is a city council decision. So you have identified bond counsel and financial advisor who are expert in this area and can advise you as to the viability of this project as proposed. On the next page, we just put forth some preliminary numbers as what the PID assessments look like. The key here is that this is before the benefit of the TERS. So the payments that are shown, although they are high because it is expected that the homes within the community will be on average $1 million. So with that, they can afford, a higher tax rate or a higher payment and still be within a marketable range from a builder standpoint. The payments here are, once the TERS is into effect, probably gets reduced about 30 or 40%. And depending on if the county and the school district participate, hopefully reduce even further. We have prepared a preliminary schedule. Tonight, we're giving you sort of a short PID 101. We will be submitting information to the council for a future agenda, including the follow the statutory requirements of creating a PID, including the PID petition, a more detailed financial analysis, and a estimate of the project development costs so they can be reviewed by your consulting team. I don't want to go through the entire schedule, but our goal is to, with the council's support, get to a bond issue later at the end of this year so we can start construction of the project. But the key thing here to remember is that each step of the way, the council is in charge. So we can agree to have the PID created, but if you don't want to issue the bonds, there are no bonds, there's no financial obligation, there's no benefit. So we can go through this process for 5 months and you can decide then you don't like it. That's the risk that our client is willing to take at this point. So like I said, you have engaged already bond counsel and financial advisor who will guide you through this process, and there'll be others involved in that involvement as well. And that's great. I kept it within the targeted time frame. I'm usually
Perfect time.
and you can breathe. I'm happy to take any questions. This is something we're very excited about, and it's a great project. And we think that the PID has helped make it a reality and a lot nicer project other than it would otherwise be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe we had, Craig Cunningham was unavailable, but I believe his business partner, Stephen Perry, is online. If you're there, Steve, do you have any comments? If you weren't able to jump on, I guess we won't have his comments. Okay.
Is there any more discussion?
No.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 4, consideration, discussion, and take action on the revision of schedule for sale of bulk water at the city of Blanco. We had a brief discussion at our last city council meeting, and this item was tabled. So is there
Right, thank you,
updates?
Mayor. Yes.
Great.
So what has happened since then? I'm gonna go backwards. What I had seen on the administration side was that we had bulk water, didn't have a very good control or sense of who was getting that water. What happened, our admin assistant would actually give somebody a key, take the $25 per 1,000 gallons, and then that person would go to the city yard, open the gate, use a standpipe. They may or may not use that amount. They might take more. We didn't know. And then I had safety concerns as well. When I talked to Damon, it's like, well, we should have that gate locked and it shouldn't be open. Sometimes it would be open. I mean, there were a lot of issues. Plus, I had some concerns about possible, I'm not saying it was, but possible cross-contamination. So what we ended up doing, I emailed this to you, but I'm gonna go ahead and.
Thank you.
Sure. So what's happened since then is then we made the decision, council made the decision to go ahead and just allow the bulk water sale between 8 and 10 a.m. between Monday and Thursday to kind of corral this in. Since then, of course, we've had the stage 2 drought, so it kind of bought us some time, and I don't expect, and then with that stage 2 drought, we're not selling bulk water right now. So if you look at the information and you look at the fact that what the city is currently making out of all the bulk water that's not by hydrant meters, so the people just coming in from different places, my understanding is most of it is not within the city. It's just people from different parts of the hill country. We're making about $9,500, which is some amount, but it's not for all the work that goes with this. So wanted to look and get guidance from the council. I think one of the things we want to look at is discontinuing bulk water in the sense that people come to talk to Olga, go to the standpipe, open the door and do all that stuff. I think what we want to look at is options other than that, maybe having the hydrant meters, looking what the cost is. And so the recommendation or what we were looking at doing, so I want to kind of give you just some numbers of what's happening right now. So with the hydrant, there are 5 people, and I think you saw the different applicants, but I want to talk about the pricing. The pricing right now, I believe it's $355 per month, but then after that, it's only $7 per 1,000 gallons. That's not very much. So if you take 100,000 gallons, that means that person is getting that for basically $1,035. So that is actually pretty inexpensive. I mean, if we're looking at selling bulk water, that is basically the rate that a resident would have that actually lives in the city. And most of these folks are at least not in the city at all. They're Blanco County, or they're maybe in other places. Damon, I know you had some thoughts about the pricing and kind of what your thoughts were. So if you wanted to put you on the spot here.
No,
But
share.
there's really twofold I'm going to mention. The twofold is I don't think we want to continue bulk water. I think we want to have it hydranted. And then I was looking at something like keeping that fee the same, that monthly fee the same, and increasing it from 7 to about 15. But Damon may have a different idea, and since he's kind of the expert.
Warren, I have a quick question, if you don't mind. Didn't we talk about an automated system?
Talk about an automated system. That automated system would cost $50,000.
That answers that question. Thank you.
It would take.
Okay, it was just a question.
But is there some way that we can meter it and know exactly who's getting
The
coded
cheapest,
meters?
fastest route is the hydrant meters.
Okay.
Luckily, we're in stage 2 of our drought contingency plan because the hydrant meters, the few we do have are all out at the moment. So we will have to order more, and that's November, December until I can even get those. So that's another reason why we were trying to push this a little faster is because if I need them, I need to order them.
Right. And how much are those and how many do we have to have? You mentioned multiples. Do we
Right.
need multiples?
So I would like to order at least 5 more and to have on hand. I think we have 5 now. And truth be told, we're not even sure how accurate those are. So as we get them, we will replace those, send those off to be tested. Also, currently, none of our meters have backflow devices on them. So that would be something else we would install on the hydrant meters. What I've talked to Warren about, the current deposit is $1,500. That is the price of a meter, but I think we need to up that to $2,500 deposit to cover the backflow device because those are $1,000 by themselves. They get damaged, tore up. Basically, when we give them the vendor this meter, it's their responsibility. They have to take care of it. They got to ensure that it's protected, and that removes liability from us, from the
So
city.
each customer would have their own meter.
Right, and we either will work out something where we go by and read the meters, monthly or whenever they turn them in, whatever the city decides, but it's also a better way to track it instead of them coming in every single time they need water, saying, here's $25 for 1,000, let me go get some bulk water. Remove some of the strain on our utility clerk.
Okay. And the cost of those, you said the backflow, you said was a
Was 1,000, so
1,000.
total would be $2,500.
$2,500 for the whole
Yes,
thing.
ma'am. And he talked, he talked about increasing the rate. I'm wholeheartedly 100% on that. I'm pro Blanco, so I believe there's some revenue there that we're missing out on that definitely needs to be captured because water is like gold in these hills. So nothing outrageous. That's for y'all to decide, but it definitely needs to be looked at. That the $7 1,000 gallons is just, you might as well give it to them at that point.
I know. Do we have any comps for other entities that sell bulk water? Other providers of it? Do we know what they charge for it? I'm just curious about market. Pardon? Absolutely, yes.
So not to kick this down the road anymore, but that is something that we may need some time to look at. We're having our engineer look at it. And also, I will let you know the reason why we're looking at $15. First of all, I don't have comps right now. I've looked and I haven't found any comparables. Having said that, the reason why we're looking at 15 is because the rate code 7, which is for commercial outside the city, is currently at the $15 volumetric rate. What I will say though, is that we are having the rate study done. And so that might change some things. But the guidance I'm hoping to get tonight is that you're agreeing that the way we do bulk water today is going to have to change. We have to go to a meter system. Even if you're not ready to talk about the amount, we probably have a couple months at least because we're not selling any bulk water because of the drought.
Yeah, well, I would say definitely metered, definitely a deposit, especially if each organization is going to have their own meter, so we can make sure we're not paying for replacing those expenses. And we know the rate's got to go up, and so maybe we get some comps. We have some time because we're not selling it, and I know people are involved with delivering this water, which is important, but there's at $10 a gallon, so to have it delivered, I mean, it's pretty expenses are up
So
for 100.
our water is a finite quality. It's finite, meaning that we have between 600 and 1,200 acre feet, and as far as it probably won't get more. So that is what we have, and so we're just looking at ways to try to optimize that and make sure that we conserve that. Thanks.
So do you need a motion this evening to authorize you to get the 10 backflow preventers and 5 additional meters, or can you just do that?
We can just do that. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that seems like an excellent idea.
And then I'd like us also to look at who our customers are and see if they're, we know there are water people that are actually here. I'm interested in what of those businesses are here because we may have a limit on at some point as to how much bulk water we sell. And that can vary from year to year, or, you know, stage two, we don't do any, but at stage two, I don't remember. I'm reviewing our drought management plan now. And in stage one, I don't know if we limit the volume of bulk water we sell or ever. So kind of interesting.
I did include the people that have the meters. I think one of them is a tech stock contractor, but other than that, wasn't too familiar with some of them. So.
Okay.
I was talking stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken.
I might need some guidance here. I'm just questioning why we sell bulk water at all.
So I can't answer why we sell it. We sell it because council before you made the decision to do that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm looking for your guidance.
Well-
Do you have an opinion that you can share with me?
so my opinion would be that if we were to start all over, we wouldn't sell bulk water at all. That's my opinion. Now, that may not be a popular one, but I think that the infill, the people that are already in the city come first, and then you look at, now the other thing is, I personally don't agree with providing water to anyone that won't annex. And so that's the other thing. So I am pro-business and pro-annexation, but I'm not pro-giving water to anyone that won't annex. That's my personal opinion. And professional.
Warren, my question is 15 enough? I mean, that still seems really low to me.
And that might change. You need to forget doing that. That might be low. That is what rate code 7 is right now. So when we start getting information from sorry, I'm having a brain freeze here. When we actually get the rate study,
Right.
I think we're going to see that rate code 7 go up. And what I would suggest is that we follow that. So, but we may look at doing a higher rate. You're correct.
Okay.
So we are going to invest in these new 5 meters. Is that happening?
I'll go ahead and start looking at least 2 or 3.
Because that's necessary to continue until we make a decision.
But I think it's interesting that you bring that up, Counselor, because if there's a thought that we would see selling bulk water, then would we be asking for an investment in devices to make the sale of bulk water available?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe
Right.
that's the discussion that we need to have more of, is if we're,
Well, but they're
Is
looking
there a
for a
sense?
direction and everything. Right now, I mean, if we're in a drought stage, we don't sell.
we're
water.
not selling it,
I
no.
mean, our citizens come first.
Mhm.
But if we've got, 500 acre or 600 acre feet available and our usage is,
They can't.
again, I'm sorry.
Speak into it. When you turn and talk to Connie, I can't.
I was talking to Connie. I'm sorry. I'll try to do that.
But
Okay.
I want to hear what
All
you're
right.
saying.
I guess basically, we've got 600 acre feet. And if our consumption is half that,
Mhm.
sometimes, then I wouldn't be objectionable to selling water to help offset some of our enterprise funds at a higher rate than we sell to our residents.
I agree. I think what it poses for us is a larger policy issue, and that is what we're going to have to find some way to deal with in the future, and that is the lack of storage that we have for our water, because at some point with the next set of PIFs, the next set of money is going to be, how do we store more water when we have it so that we can access it when we don't? And that's something we're pretty tight on. But with what Councilmember Smith has said, if we have the water, if we're not in a drought, if we're not using it, and we've got a lot of wiggle room, and we price it in a way that it actually generates income into the enterprise fund, then it makes sense to sell it, because otherwise we aren't doing anything with it and we can't store it.
Difficult to imagine that in this moment.
Pardon?
Having that much extra water is difficult to imagine in this moment.
I know. I wish we had a big aquifer storage, ASR.
And,
Sorry.
it's one thing when it's coming from Canyon Lake, but when we're taking it out of the river,
Mhm.
we don't really have extra water.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, it's one thing when it's coming from Canyon Lake, but when we're taking it out of the Blanco River, we don't really have extra water, if that's where it's
Understand.
coming
We
from.
we currently have 600 acre feet in Canyon Lake and 500 acre feet in the Blanco
I
River.
understand. I'm just saying, it's coming out of the river.
Yeah, I think the point is if we can keep the river flowing
Well, then,
Thank you.
as
That's
full as we can, as much of the year as we can, it's that much better for,
well, we still got the
Everybody gets-
600 acre feet at Canyon Lake.
well,
So what I'm hearing is to go ahead and proceed with the 5 new and
Is
the
that what we're saying?
10
I
backflows.
don't know if everybody's in concert on that.
Well, my understanding is that we're to. Sure. Right, and we'll provide guidance next time, looking at the rates, looking at some comps, and then coming up with a more complete presentation next time.
One more clarification, was that a $12,000 investment? The devices and the backflow? Okay, times 5. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 5. Consideration, discussion, and take action on Avenue Insights and Analytics Consultant Services Agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think a couple of months ago, we had looked at doing basically an agreement with Avenue Analytics to do basically to look at the short-term rental, how much of that fee that we're getting, also to do something called misallocation of sales tax to make sure that we were getting all the sales tax we basically should be getting. And then the third thing was we were going to also get someone to look at how much franchise fee and try to optimize that. So Councilmember Smith had asked that we do an RFQ for that, and the only company that actually answered was Avenue Analytics. And to explain a little bit more, maybe go back through some of the things that I probably didn't explain. I think the applicant, Brandy Sanders here. Can you bring Brandy in? She's on. Brandy, can you hear us?
Yep, can you hear me?
Can you speak louder, please?
Yeah, how's this?
better.
So can you explain the process, the 3 different things that this agreement covers, and then what your company will be doing, and kind of how the fee structure is set up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with the sales tax misallocation services. And essentially, we're going to get data from the Texas Comptroller and review that data to ensure that all of the sales tax revenue that is due to Blanco actually made it to Blanco and not a town neighboring Blanco, misallocated in error. So that is billed on a contingency fee basis in the contract that's detailed out at 35%. To move on to the franchise fee audits, very similar. It's just a compliance review with the goal of enhancing revenue, finding revenue that you would not have otherwise found without a compliance examination. That is also contingency fee structure. Actually, I think our contract gives you 2 different types of fee options. So I think if maybe you want to look at that and decide which option, one's straight contingency, and I think one has a minimums fee or something. I'll pull it up and look. But I'd rather spend a little bit more time on the short-term rental full administration service, because I think that's probably the more complex and robust of the 3. In that, we will work with the city to, augment your staff to ensure that you have the highest compliance rate for your short-term rental properties. We're going to provide you, I heard earlier someone saying something about having trouble filing your occupancy tax. We're going to give you a very user-friendly filing portal that is going to be more than a payment portal. It's actually going to have a tax return that's going to be completed by your taxpayer, and it's going to accompany the payment. We are going to follow up on all of your delinquencies, permitting, basically any function that the city has in regards to short-term rentals. Avenue will take over those functions and provide a software monitoring tool for you. So we're going to be able to probably even identify some properties that aren't even on your tax roll. And so in that, we also will do some compliance auditing of your short-term rental properties for occupancy tax as well. So those are the services kind of at a 30,000 foot view, and I'm happy to take any questions anyone may have.
And tell me again, on the short-term rental administrative services, collecting the permitting fees, doing all of that stuff, how did you say that's charged? So we have a contingency on any newly recovered sales tax. So sales tax we're getting. So it's the discovery of any new sales tax revenue that you find. That's a 35% contingency fee. And is that the same thing for franchise taxes, or if you find anything else, it's all on the same percentage contingency for newly discovered revenue?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. It is only on newly discovered revenue, and it is a contingency fee. Again, there are 2 fee options for franchise fees, so you might look at that and decide which option you want. My recommended option would be the straight contingency fee, just because it's simpler. And I think it would be a better revenue generation for the city. I did fail to mention that the short-term rental fee structure is different in that it is an annual fee per property of $195 per property per year. Included in that, you get the administration services, as well as your filing portals, as well as a government-facing portal so that your city can go in and track any taxpayer to see if they have filed their tax return or any reporting data. You'll have a portal for that. And also the monitoring software, the city will have access to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question, the 35% contingency, I believe that was on the sales and use tax. Is that correct?
Yes. It's
And is that for a period of 24 months?
So you'll have to forgive me because kind of my wheelhouse is the short-term rental. I have been involved in the sales tax misallocation for a little while, so I think that it is 35% of newly found revenue. Any revenue that we found to have been misallocated, we're going to get that revenue back into the city of Blanco. And I believe there is a period of 24 months that contingency fee would be due on that. And so we would identify a taxpayer that was basically reporting to the wrong jurisdiction. So we would bring them into compliance. And then the next, I don't know if it's 12 or 24, but it is in the contract. So there's a short window of look forward.
I believe it's 24. Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions of staff or Ms. Sanner at this time?
I guess my only point of discussion on this is I was reviewing the contracts, and in some places it has the previous administrator's name, and there are a couple of dates that need to be updated. So as long as we get that fixed, I'm happy to.
You know, and if we get approval from council tonight, then we'll make sure that's done before you sign it. Thanks.
I have one more question. So the list of general fees, is that kind of like a buffet? We get to pick which services we want. We're not committing to all their services that they provide.
That's correct. And I think what we had kind of discussed and what council had advised administration was that we were looking at the 3 specific things, that the short-term rental, we're looking at the misallocation of taxes, and then the franchise fee. I think there's there's other things that they provide as well, but I think those were the 3 that we were specifically looking at.
Sales and use tax, STR, and franchise fee.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Oh, Madam,
Go ahead. I'm looking for the agenda item. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we authorize our city administrator to negotiate a contract with Avenue Insights and Analytical Consultant Service.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion to have our city admin negotiate the Avenue Insights and Analytics Consultant Service Agreement. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Barron has seconded. Any further discussion?
There was an option apparently on how we're going to be charged for the short-term rental. Is that correct? Did I hear it correctly? Is that something that you'll negotiate, Warren?
Yes, we can negotiate that.
All in favor? All opposed? So we are 2 and 2,
So that would mean you need to vote, Mayor?
and I am 4. So the motion carries 3 to 2. We are going to move on. New business, item 1, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of variance request at 1725 South US Highway 281 to wooden deck, 10 feet side yard setback and 20 feet real setback. And I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at their public hearing yesterday, and it was approved.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, it was recommended for approval. Essentially, this is a wooden deck that is attached to a local business called Second Echo. It's on 281, and the variance was to allow for an encroachment on the 20-foot side setback and the 35-foot rear setback. So it's a 10 and 20 respectively. If Ms. Moore would like to explain her thoughts about it, that'd be great. If not, I can explain it, but.
Hi, Mayor, Council. I think I sent you the summary from the meeting last evening, and we feel like that it's just a win-win. Everything that's around it is commercial. We know that the commercial setbacks are greater, but in this instance, it's not seen from the front, and it's an overflow from the people that can be there during a particular get-together at the Echo. We had no one come forward from the surrounding area that was against it, and the deck looks good. It'll be up to city admin to make sure that the deck is properly built, but we fully agree on the setback not being a problem, and in fact, it will enhance that property.
I do have one question. Will the deck have a roof?
No.
Okay.
That's why they wanted it in the tree, so that they would have some shade. It's
Okay.
back there where there's oak trees,
Oh,
and we
no roof. All right,
defined
thank
that they would not do anything detrimental to the oak trees.
All right, thank you.
And I will say that if you have any questions specifically about the deck, representative for Second Echo, Mr. John Sowen is here if you have any questions of the applicant or me. So, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the variance request at 1725 South US Highway 281, ABS A0002, Survey 24H Eagleston Acres, .69 wood deck, 10-foot side yard setback and 20-foot rear yard setback.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion to approve the variance request at 1725 South US Highway 281. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mayor Pro Tem Barron has seconded. Discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Going to move on to item 2, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of RFQ for gateway signs and/or placement of the sign in a city right of way. And this is me, so I'm gonna get my notes really quick. So I have been meeting with a small group of volunteers to proceed with the Gateway project. And our meetings were in June. We had one at the beginning of June and one towards the end of June. And so the gateway signs have been talked about for years and nothing has ever actually been accomplished. So we are trying to form a committee and get it actually implemented and started. And so before we started with a committee and we began to look for funding and all of that type of stuff, we wanted to make sure that we had all the information to give the developers so they can give us a better quote. Basically, we wanted to, we felt that it would be more productive and beneficial to gather all the financial information instead of just saying, hey, donate money, and we don't have actually any idea what it's going to be. So after the bids are received, which if we pass this RFQ to go out for bids, we will be having a core development committee, and we have brainstormed having members from local organizations, such as the Rotary Club, Lions Club, the Masons, KBB, the Chamber, Historic Commission, and et cetera. So basically today we are just trying to see if we even have the support of the city council to go forward with going out for an RFQ for this project. And what we've discussed is that the contractors will be able to, may provide their own design, but must incorporate limestone. And what we have in the agenda package is what the Blanco Historic Preservation Commission has approved a while back. So that is what we have approved right now from that commission, but we felt that it wasn't just a Historic Preservation Commission project and that it should be opened up to the whole community because it is welcoming everybody to our town. And we've also discussed, the BHPC has already purchased one of the plywood boards to paint on for this approved design. But we've also talked about looking into doing a metal sign rather than wooden sign. So that's the overview.
Okay.
So are you asking that the city would do the RFQ for gateway signs, working with you and the committee members to bring that
Yes,
in?
and attached is a rough draft of a, it would not be this exact proposal. City staff would help.
So council member, one of the problems with a committee or subcommittee to actually create an RFQ is that they don't have the time or sometimes the knowledge to do an RFQ. On top of that, they also don't have the authority to approve one. And so when I discussed it with the city attorney and with the mayor, I think the best standard of practice is for us to do the RFQ and for the council to approve it so that we have transparency.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I would move that the city administrator would develop and do an RFQ for Blanco gateway signs.
Mayor Pro Tem Barron has moved to have the city admin proceed with creating a RFQ for the gateway signs. Is there a second? Councilmember Devine has seconded. Discussion.
I have a question. We're going out for a request for qualifications, correct? Not a request for proposals. We're not looking for a bid. We're looking for qualifications.
We would probably need to do an RFP.
That'll be fine. You can do it as an RFP. If you want an actual price, Mayor, then what you would need to do is an RFP.
Okay.
So then I'll amend my motion.
Smart.
The city administrator will develop and do an RFP for gateway signs for the city of Blanco.
Councilmember Barron has made a amendment to her motion to say the city administrator will go out for, or put out an RFP, not an RFQ.
Okay.
Is there a second? Councilmember Devine has seconded. Any other discussion?
Curious, 2 signs, north and south?
For now, that is the plan, to have them on 281 north and south.
Locations to be determined?
That is something that we are working on in the committee. We really just want to have the RFP sent out so we have more information to go from there.
And to let you know, council member, you as a council will have to approve the location because it's on city right away. So that at least a little part of it will come back to you.
Yeah, and we are talking with landowners to see if we have different options. All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Item 3, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of Amendment 1 to Task Order 10 to extend the water and wastewater PIP. This amendment will increase the contract by $4,487.50.
So if I may, Mayor, Council, to kind of give you a little bit of an understanding, what's happened here is our outgoing city engineer, Freeland Turk, approached me about 2 task orders, or two amendments, change orders, basically. And one of them, which I agreed to bring here, and I'll tell you what the second one was. The first one was the fact that to do the engineering work for the PIF, your task order allowed for $8,000. Now, in providing this work, the effort they put out was $12,487. So they went over $4,487.50 without council approval or without administrator approval. But the issue is they've already done the work. So even though it may seem, anyway, I'm reluctant to say we should approve this change order because they've already done the work. And legally, we probably have to. That's the first one. The second change order that came to me was they wanted to continue working and doing the water plant until December. And I have some different options I'm going to bring to you later, but we're not going to do that with them. So we are working something else out between them and our new engineer, because I want to make sure that we get this done complete and correctly. But in this particular case, I think this task order we pretty much need to pay for. Tim, agree?
I concur.
I'd just like to know is there a way that we can make clear that we are not just going to keep giving checks to this firm after they do work and then say, oh, well, we did all this and forgot to ask you, but I mean, do we need to do some written something that says, here's where we are?
So what we're doing is later this week or early next week, I'm having a meeting with the principal, Tom Turk, and we will have a plan on how to finish all their work with them and what that cost will be. I'll have the attorney review that and I will bring that to you as soon as I can. But the answer is, well, I want to stop doing all of these change orders I didn't know about. You're correct.
Well, wait, let me make sure I get this where I can understand it, I guess. We signed a task order for them authorizing an additional $8,000 worth of work.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And it identified a scope of work.
It did.
Okay. And they completed that scope of work and they billed us for more than that.
That's correct. We couldn't pay them. I said, well, you would need a change order because that is above the scope and above the what.
But our contract in time and material, our contract's based off the change order for the task order.
That's true.
I'm sympathetic to their position, but as a provider, if I give somebody a bid and it costs me more than that, that's an education I bought.
My answer is I'm holding my nose and I'm presenting this to you. But if the answer is no, then we'll tell Mr. Turk no. And then we'll have to review, what his options
All
might
right,
be.
then if we made a decision of no, does that jeopardize your position in the transition from Turk to an alternate provider for the completion of the plant?
This is for the PIF, but it's the same, but there's two different things that he came up with. There was the PIF, and then he also was coming to administration about the continuation of the water plant. It would probably make the relationship worse than it already is, but it's not good.
Okay. Does it have that relationship that's jeopardized now? Does it have a $4,487.50 value not to deteriorate it anymore?
If it was me, I would just pay it. Yes. So the answer is yes. I think we should
Well, I
just
mean,
pay
I'm not
it.
going to shoot you in the foot. So,
Yes.
it-
This is a stinky deal, honestly, but
Well, I understand, and that's part of life, but you gotta, you cut your nose off despite, I mean, you just don't want, I don't want to do that to you. I mean, I have had heartburn more than once with the changes that I didn't think were warranted, and this just reinforces it again. But for $4,400, I'm not gonna be non-supportive of this. But I don't think I'll ever approve another one. I'll make that commitment.
Is there a motion?
I can't make the motion.
Okay.
I tell you what, I'll make a motion. We table this till Warren completes his transition of the wastewater treatment plant management, and we'll review it at that point in time.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion to table it, and Councilmember Devine has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to executive session. Item 1, Texas Government Code, Section 551071, Section 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, and 551072, to wit, discussion with legal counsel to obtain legal advice related to possible reclaimed water contract between City and Chamaco Mio Investment LLC. Item 2, Texas Government Code, Section 551071, Section 105, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to wit, discussion with legal counsel, re-ordinance 2022-0005, regulating a short-term rental and imposing a related permit fee and penalties for non-compliance. Item 3, Texas Government Code Sections 551071, 551072, and Section 105, Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct, confer with city attorney regarding proposed public improvement district, Palmco Inc. Item 4, Texas Government Code Sections 551071, 551072, and Section 105, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, confer with city attorney regarding Paradise Utility Easement Agreement. Item 5, Texas Government Code Section 551071 and Section 105, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, and 551072, confer with city attorney regarding Canyon Lake Water SC water valuation and Westwater city's interest in undivided interests. Item 6, Texas Government Code Section 551071 and Section 105, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, and 551072, confer with city attorney regarding city property evaluations at Blanco Vista Estates, Lot 3, and 202 Cherry Street, city's interests. And item 7, Texas Government Code Section 551074, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city administrator. So at 7:42, we are in executive session.